Alright guys, we're back with the build for Ukraine of the ICM Admiral Cabriolet. I'm going to give you guys an update as to where we are with this project. I've made quite a bit of progress on it in the last couple of days. And let me bring you into where I'm at with this right now. As you can see here, the biggest thing is we're finally getting the body together. Doing a lot of fit testing, because with this car with so many parts involved in assembling the body, you definitely have to do a lot of trial and error fitting. You don't want it to come down to where you're going to glue everything in place and find that it doesn't fit. Because there are a couple of places where you will have to be aware of some fitment issues, and I'm going to cover that with you guys right now. The first thing is putting the two sides of the car on with the door panels. There's going to be a bit of a fit issue with this interior paneling right here, this interior kick paneling, as it comes up very tight up against the firewall here and the upper part of the firewall that's attached to the windshield frame. So I found that what I had to do was actually just shave off a bit of plastic here and a bit of plastic down here until I could get this whole side portion of the car to actually fit snugly so that it stays on to the lower half of the chassis, I want to call this. As this interior piece, the interior door panels and the outer shell are all one part once you glue it together. And then you have to sit it, and you have to make sure that these little tabs here, this is where it starts to get a little tricky, as these tabs have to come over the floor pan and in front of this rocker panel area here. Let's see if I can give you guys a good look at that. So this part of the fender has to come over the floor and in front of the rocker panel, and then just kind of snaps into place. Now you have to make sure that you get that right, otherwise your body side will be sticking out. Your body side will be sticking out too much. Just like this one is doing a little bit here, but that's about the best fit that I'm going to get of it there, which won't be too noticeable once the car is sitting on all fours. But you have to make sure that you have this piece, you see this piece here of the inner part of the fender over the floor pan and in front of the rocker panel in order to get this to sit in properly. And then as this is going in, you also have to make sure that this interior trim part here is sliding over the floor pan into the part of the interior here, as this piece is going to be between the floor pan, the outer part of the car, and the dashboard once the front goes into place. So it's a tricky little assembly involving making sure you have clearance on multiple parts as it all goes together. So it's a little tricky, not horrible, but a little tricky. Then you're going to have to make sure, which is why you do your test fitting, that your inner and outer fenders are going to make contact exactly where they're supposed to. And once you add a little bit of glue, that'll hold it all together. Right in there and there. Don't worry about that huge seam. That's actually where the engine compartment, where the hood falls when you close it. So you make sure that those are lined up properly once you have everything here lined up properly. Now, you're also going to find that once you install it and get the front half sitting correctly, you're going to have a little bit of an issue with the rear here, as the front wants to, as you can see here, the front wants to pitch downward a little bit, and that raises the rear portion of the body shell here. That's going to be easy enough to fix once you apply a little glue. Then just get yourself a clamp it down so that it's holding solidly against the rocker panel. Let that dry, and that should solve your issue there and give you a nice straight rocker panel to door connection there. Then I left the rear portion of the body, which is part of the trunk lid, loose, because then you can go ahead and bring in that portion and try and make your gap on the rear door at least somewhat close to the front. It's going to be a little tough because it's just a little bit of an issue with the way that fits. That's going to allow, you're going to put a little bit of, you can put a little super glue in there, and once you have everything lined up, glue it down, and you should get something more or less like this, which really doesn't look too bad once everything is together. And you're going to find you have the exact same issue on this side. So you're going to just bring it down, bring down the rear portion, glue it all together, and once you have the trim pieces in place, it should look pretty good when it's done. And that's going to give you the majority of your body going together. That's going to be where you have the majority of your problems as the body's going together. Then you just have to make sure that the center post between the doors slots into a little T slot that's on the floor there. It should just snap into place as soon as you get the front lined up. You're going to find that everything up to the doors, up to the rear doors, just kind of snaps into place exactly where it's supposed to. I mean, it really is well engineered in that manner. Once you make a few slight adjustments, a lot of it does just snap into place, and it's a friction fit and just holds into place, as these panels are not glued on. It's just basically a friction fit holding them together. So I can put a little bit of glue there and glue that down. So it is actually a very well engineered kit, even though it does have these minor flaws. Then you're going to need to grab your windshield frame, which is also part of the firewall, and also includes your dashboard and steering assembly. Now we have the dashboard and steering all done. You can see here, along with the mirror. What I had to do with the mirror was to add a, I don't know if you guys can see that there. I actually had to add a post on the mirror because they had the mirror glued right to the windshield, and that just didn't look right to me. I mean, did the real car have it that way? I don't know, but that didn't look right to me. So I added a small post to give the mirror some adjustability. And of course, you see the steering wheel here with its ivory colored rim. The dashboard is all done up with all the bare metal foiling. There's still quite a few parts that go on here as far as the sunshades, and I think a couple other pieces that go in here. It really is, every part of this car is a model kit in itself. Here you can see in the windows we have our bare metal foiling done on that tiny little ridge for the windshield frame, which really was a monster to try and get that bare metal foiled, and I just barely got it acceptable. Let me just make sure that it's going to stay in there. No guarantee how long that's going to last in there. Did have a little bit of a mishap with the glue, but I cleaned most of that off the glass, so it's not really that noticeable. The steering wheel, the two-piece steering wheel is in there, intact, and everything looks really nice. Let's see if we can get that to you. Hopefully that'll not be blurry. All the instrument clusters, the gauges are in there. You have the center trim piece with bare metal foil. Gives it a nice chrome trim piece there. All the gauges are decals that were from the kit, and then what I did was I painted the chrome ring around the gauges, or the aluminum or chrome, I don't know if you can see that there, and then put future floor polish over them to simulate the glass on the gauges. So this front piece basically slots in here. You have to spread apart the body a little bit. And what you want to do is you want to get the front corners to slot into the body here. Now that gets to be a little bit tricky as again you have multiple pieces that have to line up properly in order to get it to fall into the spot where it belongs. You have to make sure that the firewall slots in, the upper part of the firewall slots in to the lower part, while keeping the steering shaft lined up to its hole there, and at the same time lining up the upper part of the body here to the curved section here. So you're going to bring it in. You have to make sure that you can get past the dashboard. This is where it gets a little bit tricky putting it all together, because you have a whole bunch of parts which have to be lined up properly in order for this thing to fit. And there we go. So you're going to have to bend the body out just a little bit, pull the windshield frame out away from the body, and then just slide it back in so that everything moves and slots into where it's supposed to. You can see here, where's my pointer? You can see here where the body slots into the front frame there. And then you just have to make sure that it slides all the way back as close as it can, being careful not to apply too much pressure, as this is a very delicate kit. And there you have most of your body all together. Make sure that I didn't knock the dashboard out, because I've already done that once. The trickiest part is lining everything up so that you get one body shell. And once it's all together, you'd be surprised that even though none of this is glued together, it's pretty sturdy. I mean, it's pretty much holding itself there. If I were to just put a little glue on the back to glue the rear section down, I think it would pretty much stay right where it is, as it's all interlocked based on the front fenders here going on the chassis. Everything's interlocked together. Unless you pull it apart, it's really not going to come apart. So if I did want to just go from here and just start gluing the rear together, I really wouldn't have a problem with that. It's going to have rocker extensions here, which will cover this section here. So there you go, guys. That's our latest update on the build for Ukraine. I have tape here to protect in case I get any excess of the super glue coming out that I'm going to be using to hold this thing down. Working on the glass next, which we have here with some Hasegawa foil to give us our chrome trim. Front end is done. Again, trial fit, trial fit, trial fit. Everything on this kit. And the front end is going to slot right into there when we are ready to put the final touches on this kit. I gotta say, it is a complicated kit to put together, but it's fantastic when it's going together. I mean, it really does show nicely. Let's just put the front seats in. That you're going to want to do last, because there's so much movement you have to do around here. You don't want to risk damaging anything. And there we go. That will be our finished interior once we are done with putting the body together. And in case you're wondering, this is our convertible boot here, which will sit on the rear of the car like so. So that's where we're at so far. Now we have to go and paint a couple more pieces, as since I'm not really familiar with this car, I'm just kind of working on it as I go along, and I keep finding things that I have to paint. Extends the build, but on a project like this, on a car that's this much fun to build, I don't really have a problem with extending it. Although I'm really getting curious to see what it's going to look like when it's done. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this little update. I'm going to go and paint the remaining pieces, or what I think I've got to paint. Do some more foiling, and get one step closer to finishing off this build for Ukraine. And remember guys, just because they're not in the news so much anymore doesn't mean that there aren't still horrors going on in that part of the world. So keep that in mind. Alright guys, that's it for now, and I will see you guys on the next one.